Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. We are here with the Taos Institute for a Pulsating Practices webinar series. Thank you for joining us. And I'm very pleased to have our host today, Francois Heon, for our presentation on developing collective leadership, a social constructionist approach. And before I pass it on to our host, I will just say a few words about the Taos Institute. So we are a virtual nonprofit educational organization, and we promote social constructionist, appreciative, relational approaches. We have many activities to do this. We have this online community, the Taos Institute Commons, that has almost 3,000 members at this point from all over the world. Wow. So you must be familiar with the platform, and if not, I encourage you to explore the different spaces, different areas available, lots of resources, including a collection of over 100 free books for downloading. So the World Share book series is something we're very proud of, and we encourage you to share with your colleagues and your friends. There are also event replays available in the Commons. So if you know anyone who would be interested in today's conversation, feel free to pass them on to the Commons so they can watch the recording. We also have conferences, workshops, courses available. You can find all this information on our website as well as in our community. So welcome again, and I will pass it on to Ken Gergen, president of the Taos Institute, first to say a few words about François.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alex, and welcome everyone. And Francois Heon, welcome. It's almost like introducing a brother or family member to have you here. You've been so active in Taos Institute activities. In fact, you came through our PhD program, graduating at Twente University in the Netherlands. So I'm really happy to have you here. I must say, I look back on what you've been doing over the years, and I just find myself so impressed. Working abroad, Romania and Burundi, working with psychiatric management, forming your own consulting company, which I understand has been looked at, rated as one of the top consulting companies for management development in Canada, which is just marvelous. Congratulations on that. Yes, out of Montreal, but indeed working internationally. François has also published several books, which I take it are online. The Yin and Yang of Leadership, which was one of your earlier books, which was already into issues of leadership as a sort of a democratic practice. Then Leadership is a Choice, which I haven't yet read, but I'm very anxious to. I'm particularly anxious about today's presentation, or at least pleased that you've chosen this topic. In today's world, which is moving in the opposite direction from what you're advocating, a talk on collective leadership and its possibilities really seems just absolutely right on target. So, welcome, François. Really pleased to have you here.
Ken, thank you so much. Thank you so much. First time I saw you was in the department at Case Western Reserve 34 years ago. And I'll throw back some of the flowers to see you so active throughout all these years and still today, and to see you like this. I remember Suresh, and seeing you like this is a bit of having Suresh in the room as well. So it's so thanks a lot for these kind words. I really appreciate it.
Memory. Yeah.
Really happy to be here. I want to check with Alex because we're really sharing the screen aspect. Alex, are you okay with admitting everyone? So I don't because right now I'm just admitting people as I press on the screen, and I don't want to. You're okay?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm on my phone, and Alex is helping me with the presentation. So without any further ado, I'm really happy to be here with you, and my objective in this 90 minutes is to present essentially this methodology that I've developed over the years, which has taken source in the Appreciative Inquiry, present it, discuss about it, but also experience some of it, because it's so simple and I find it so efficient and powerful, so that you can actually learn from it And from even this interaction, go back and apply it yourself. And that's the beauty of it. So, so essentially, it will be to present this. If we go to there's a journey that has led to this methodology, and I just want to highlight to put some context, if you don't mind. If you go to the first slide, please, Alex.
Yes.
Maybe the second one. So there's a journey, and I was referring to Ken, and yes, 34 years ago, I was doing my PhD at Case Western Reserve, which still today has remained probably the most amazing learning and transformative environment that I've had the chance to experience. So much so that I decided to leave after 2 years and explore monastic interests for a while. But when I was leaving, the Taos Institute was being created by Suresh, David, and you, Ron, and all of you, all the whole gang. So I led the PhD and explored these spiritual adventures, led me to some working in Africa for democratic development, came back to Montreal, went on to do more clinical training, work and as a psychotherapist and managing mental health services and community, to realize at some point I need to come back to my passion of organizational development, go back to the consulting. And that was the shift in 2000 when I returned to my practice with the ambition to make sense of all of this and to produce a meaningful reflection. I was referring to Suresh earlier with Ken, who was professor then, and Suresh would always say, don't tell me what other people think. Produce original thinking, produce something original if you're going to do a PhD and add to your field. And I think even though I had not completed the PhD, I left with that ambition to say I will produce something meaningful out of this. And this led to this leadership model that I've developed for individuals and groups. And today we'll focus more on the group aspect and how out of this model I've developed this methodology, this particularly efficient methodology. And that's what I will be presenting to you. Unexpectedly along the way, and that's the grace of the Taos Institute, is I had not considered completing my PhD. But the Taos Institute were there. Tojo Tachinkari, a former elder student at Case Western, was talked to me about this, and I saw the possibility of completing my PhD with a research project through the Taos Institute and the University of Twente, with the also wonderful Celeste Wilderam, who just was an amazing supervisor. So I completed the PhD recently in 2018, studying this model that I've been using with my clients internationally for the last 20 years for individuals and groups. And I'll share some results from the PhD in terms of this group methodology. So we can move on. Maybe the next slide, please, Alex. Ken mentioned 2 books, very, very humbly. The first book, The Yin and Yang, was a quick production after the PhD to share with my clients a bit of what I was doing and share that a more popular version. And I followed up in 23 with Leadership as a Choice with more of the results from the PhD, which essentially highlight more of the sub-factors of these two attitudes I refer to, the intentional attitude and the appreciative attitude. So the second book is a kind of more into detail, but again, very user-friendly with exercises. It's a guide. It's a practical guide. And I think that's been my passion. I've recognized that I was not going to become a great academic, but I could be a pretty good, in French, we have the expression vulgarisateur or popularizer, how to make intelligent ideas accessible to people. And I think that's been my mission. And this is what I want to offer today. If we go to the next slide, Alex. So this is essentially the model I'm referring to. The methodology, the group leadership seminar that we'll be talking about, essentially is made up of 2 participative methodologies: the appreciative assessment and the wall of intentions. And I'll go into more detail of why these 2 ideas, but they relate to these 2 complementary attitudes that I speak in leadership. I don't want to go into leadership theory too much, but we've talked, over many years of bi-dimensional aspects of leadership, being task-oriented, relationship-oriented. We're in an era now where we speak more leadership, not so much in terms of either traits, behaviors, but in terms of attitudes, ways of seeing things. And this model is a way to propose to individuals and groups ways of seeing things that can be transformative for them. And these exercises are based on these ways of seeing things. If we go to the next slide, there's a lot of material that's been written about appreciative inquiry. I have a personal favorite, and it's this book. Ron Fry and Frank Barrett, who were there when part of the whole becoming of appreciative inquiry, wrote this wonderful 128 pages guide to AI, which I would recommend to everyone, published through the Taos Institute. And what I liked about this particular book when it came out, I think it was in 2009 or something like that. And Ron and Frank write so well, so it's really such a pleasure to read. But they were highlighting principles of AI. And I was reflecting on my developing my methodology, and clients were telling me, François, this is really nice, but I've got half a day to give you. I've got 1 day to give you. What can you do with my management team in half a day and 1 day? And I'm thinking, okay. But I was seeing how powerful AI was and how we could be used. And then when I look at the principles, if we go to the next slide, Alex, there were two key principles for me that were acting vectors: the positive and the anticipatory. With my reflection on leadership, I could see how these two were really these levers that if you brought the group to a positive perspective, and then that appreciative reading, and then lead to the anticipatory, you were really getting to these key factors in a group, which I would say what a group likes, values, and what the group wants. Yes, the other principles which I list under are also very important. Obviously, the constructive. This is a constructive methodology. It's not about me, the expert, giving the answer. The whole idea is letting people speak and me act as a mirror to reflect back to the group what has been coming up. Yes, the poetic. Totally, in terms of the questioning, the words that create worlds and possibilities. The simultaneity principle, which is so amazing in these methodologies, where the change happens in real time, not after the consultant gave you a report 2 months or 3 months ago. And obviously the narrative principle. But I would say what I was realizing is with these principles, the intentional and the appreciative, I could ask stories, but I could ask directly the question: what do you appreciate? What do you want? And quickly, it would generate that alignment. If we go to the next slide, Alex, I also noticed when I was doing the PhD and researching these things, how Marvin Weisberg and search conferences, which is another change management methodology or group alignment methodology, where he was speaking about valuing the past and envisioning the future. And I'm thinking, again, we're getting to these same ideas that are key factors in leading a group in consciously becoming aware and choiceful about actions it wants to take together. If we go to the next slide, Alex. So again, this whole model, again, what I want, what I appreciate, but as a group, what do we appreciate as a group, and what do we want as a group? And the methodology that I've been proposing is essentially getting to those two questions. What does the group appreciate on a particular topic, and what does the group want in light of this appreciation? The other aspect with these two principles is that I don't consider them as just bidimensional. They're complementary and integrative. One leads to the other. Appreciation, as well highlighted a bit earlier, leads you to direction and action. But I won't go into that too much right now. If you go to the next slide, Alex, please. just a few minutes to highlight these two attitudes and why I've chosen them and why I consider them, not just me, so transformational. But first, and I'm speaking to many people here are very aware of this, but it's the transformational aspect of appreciation. And yes, we can certainly thank Suresh and David Cooprider, Ron Fry, for having brought this word into our world. Because when I was studying psychology and management in those days, the word appreciation was not a sexy word. It was odd, actually, in that language. But they opened the door, and for good reasons. And I really like this distinction that they highlight in the different levels that are of appreciative knowing, what it generates. And you can even think of it or experience it yourself. If you think back since you've gotten up this morning, from the moment you woke up, if you were to identify the one thing you appreciate most of your day thus far, is there one thing you could say, yeah, I'm really grateful about this, of having experienced this. Maybe just being able to walk on my 2 feet is something that can be pretty fantastic. Or somebody I've encountered, or a discussion. When you do this appreciation, a few things happen. First, as we see in the first level, there's an appraisal. You're connecting with your day. You're becoming more conscious of what happened, whereas probably before you had forgotten what had happened. So that it's that ability to connect, to become more aware of a situation. But the second is when you think back at that particular moment that you've appreciated, and you think how good it was, how valuable it is. There's something that will happen emotionally. Change will happen effectively. If you think the experience of gratitude is a good example of that. So appreciation is cognitive, but brings you to an affective level. And that's probably one of the greatest contributions as well. And thirdly, appreciation is an attitude that leads you to generate meaning. What does this thing that I appreciate most represent in my life? Why is it important? And so appreciation has this transformational effect of bringing awareness, positive emotions, meaning. And when you apply this in group, it's very powerful as well. And that's what I will show. If we go to the next slide, please. If we talk about intentionality as a complementary attitude or the anticipatory principle in AI, I really like this diagram, which I take back from my old friend and colleague, Herman Whittox. And it's simply this image, whereas humans, the way we envision our future impacts our reality in the present. It's a simple creative capacity that we have, that the way we envision the future impacts our reality. And that's where the intentional attitude becomes important. If you go to the next slide, Alex. Suresh introduced us to Mary Parker Follett, and she's become more and more, I think, the foundation on which I rest intellectually, and so impressed by her work. And I wanted to share just a few quotes in relationship to this intentional attitude and intentionality. And so Follett writes over 100 years ago, all our ideas of conscious self-determination lead us to a new method. It's not merely that we must be allowed to govern ourselves, we must learn how to govern ourselves. It is not only that we must be given free speech, we must learn a speech that is free. We're not given rights, we create rights. It is not only that we must invent machinery to get a social will expressed, we must invent machinery that will get a social will created. And this methodology is to help groups create their own social will. If we go to the next slide, Alex, please. So this idea, again, connecting it to leadership, against quoting Follett, is that it's not about following a person. Leadership is about following a common cause, a common will. And where she writes, this is also the idea of partnership and following, she calls the invisible leader, the common purpose. And she adds the best executives put this common purpose clearly before their group. So this methodology is a way to highlight this. So as a guiding guiding force for the group. If we go to the next slide, Alex. So let's get to the meat of the subject. The group leadership seminar is a combination of two methodologies based on these two principles, complementary principles, complementary attitude, the appreciative, and the intentional. This I've been doing for over 20 years with executive teams of 5 to a group of 300 people in person. It's the largest group I've done. The beauty with this methodology is there is no limit of people, no limit, because you just create subgroups and it's an exercise in collective intelligence. And I've been using it generally in development exercise, participative strategic plannings, annual group meetings, change management. I've intervened, which is not my area, in crisis situation with this methodology, toxic environments, and have been always impressed by the results that it generates. And I think, although the intentional principle for me obviously is very important, in my opinion, and I'll show you the research from my clients, the appreciative certainly steals the show. The methodology I was saying is based with these two exercises. The appreciative assessment is very, very simple. It's essentially asking a question, appreciative question on a topic, sending people into subgroups to identify their top 3 answers, come back in plenary, identify the shared items. For example, I'm a new manager, I have a new vision or plan to propose to my team, rather than just rolling it through their throats. How about presenting it and asking them, what do they appreciate most of this new plan, this new vision? The group I did, these 300 managers, that was exactly it. And so they presented the new vision, the new sales vision, and the 300 people reacted. And we asked them, what do you appreciate most of this vision that speaks to you and inspires you to go forward? Identifying groups, and then we collected all this information, and then I mirror back to the group. And of all the methodology, I find, and I've noticed, I've seen it so many times, that's where the real thing happened. It's amazing how that appreciative mirror brings, yes, awareness of the group, but a sense of pride, belonging, esteem, because you move from a series of individuals or people who see themselves as more separate to, wait a minute, we value the same things that are important to us. And this appreciative assessment, with time, I was always using just the appreciative question. What do you appreciate of this new vision or whatever? And then with time, I was thinking, you know what? I don't want to prevent anything to be said. Obviously, there may be irritants, frustrations. So when we did the group with the 300 managers, I added a second question to my appreciative assessment. I said, okay, tell us what you really value most of this vision, this new sales vision that's being proposed to you. And secondly, is there anything that questions you, concerns you about it? So that my appreciative assessment has my positive question and my constructive questioning, criticism, whatever, but I'm still in a constructive language. So the questioning obviously is key in this. But inevitably what happens when I do the two, my appreciative question is like the positive and the other one comes out as the negative. And it's in many occasions, the elements that are considered we should improve more on this is that we want more of what we value most. And so this happens very quickly. I ask the question, they go 20 minutes into subgroups, we come back into plenary, 30-minute discussing. And in that discussion, that's where the magic of the meaning making happens in the group. Oh, really? Oh, yes, that makes sense. We did that. And that's where also where the narrative comes in, where the stories are told and shared, the anecdotes, and the meaning is created. But this first exercise, if there's one to do, I would say do that one. Because the appreciative exercise will give you awareness, positive emotions, and it will give you direction. It's a bit of a values exercise. It will tell you what the group values the most, what the group deems most important to the group. And when the group becomes aware of this, again, there's a bonding effect. So all these results are always presented back on the flip charts. Everything is on the wall. So it's all a collective creation that happens. But when you finish your appreciative assessment, it creates meaning, it creates direction. That's where it leads to the second exercise, the wall of intentions. So one leads to the other. And what I suggest then is, and obviously when people are in the appreciative assessment, they're already into strategies and solution. I always say appreciation is a directional attitude. It leads you to what you want most, to what's important. And then, so we just flip over to the second exercise, which is the wall of intentions. And here, it's a bit of a different methodology because I want it to be very inclusive where every voice is heard. So when it's possible, depending on the number of people, I would say, so for example, you've heard this vision. 1 year from now, to reach the state where you will be most satisfied of how you've implemented this new vision, if there's one thing you consider to be a priority to put into place in the coming year, what would that be? Your number one intention to make this objective happen. Me, François, I'm in the group. I take the marker, I go on the whiteboard, and I write, we need more training. Okay. Susan comes after me. She says, François, I agree. We need more training. Okay. What Susan does, she puts an asterisk. Then Jennifer comes. Jennifer said, no, we need more cross-departmental communication. We're so into silos. We need ways to communicate. Yes, okay. Other idea. Then somebody else said, I agree with Susan. Cross-interdepartmental communication. And what happens in real time is you see clusters of asterisks emerge. And it's as simple as picking up a strainer and saying, okay, well, you seem to want this, this, and this. And the group says, yes. We've mirrored back what the group wants the most. So we've identified the key values, you could say, the key, yes, values that bind the group, and then the key intentions that bring the group forward. What Follett would say, the invisible leader, the common purpose, the common will. And then what I also do when I have time is say, okay, those who said more training and those who said interdepartmental communication, separate into your own groups of interest, brainstorm actions, anything we could do to make this happen. We bring the flip charts back, we vote with dots, and again, like a strainer, we just basically scoop up those top actions that people want to put into place. And in half a day, 1 day, they come out with the action plan they have written. Not the conventional OD consultant who comes and does individual interviews and 2 months later gives a report. This is 1 day and it's done. And then all the manager and the team needs to do is to follow up, create a follow-up meeting. And organizations have been asking me to come. We want to do it next year. So we meet as an annual meeting, as a realignment meeting. And what you notice is the organization progresses. They've accomplished what many of the objectives they've wanted, and now they have new objectives, new intentions. If we go to the next slide, and I'll be finishing this presentation so we can discuss and experiment after. It is so efficient that yes, within 90 minutes, you do the 2 questions exercise. I've done it, but it's kind of it's really, really fast. But ideally, I would say the half-a-day format will give you the appreciative assessment and the wall of intentions. You'll come out with shared values, priorities, shared intentions. And the other 3 hours, if you do a full day or if you separate the 2 days, is you translate your intentions into actions with your subgroups. So in half a day or full day, the whole group is now newly empowered with its own self-defined, self-diagnosis. I would say appreciative self-diagnosis in a way, and defining its own intentions and actions to move on. I hope this doesn't sound too kind of esoteric as I'm presenting it, but it presents essentially, yes, maybe before we talk, I'll just go to the next slide and then we can discuss a bit. Thanks, Alex. When I did the PhD a few years ago with the Institute and University of Twente, I went back to see my clients 8 years before who had participated in a group leadership seminar, these 2 methodologies. Now, I had 32 people that I interviewed from 14 interventions that involved in total 1,616 people. So some groups were an executive of 5, management team of 30, whole employee company of 90, and up to 300. So for example, the 300 group, I did not have interviews with all the 300, but I had from the HR team that had hired me. And so I went back and interviewed them to see how the methodology had impacted subsequently. And when I collected the answers from the clients, we looked at the content and themes came up. And what was really interesting is the first thing, and I mean the most important one of all, they were saying it's your appreciative thing. They were so impressed. And it's funny when you talk to people in general, they say, oh, we did appreciative inquiry, and they just ask an appreciative question. Not, it's just, but it shows how the power of that perspective, how powerful it is. And so that was really the first thing the clients were so amazed of how it wasn't touchy-feely as we would have talked, a few decades ago. This was really effective and very efficient. That's the other thing that is impressive. The other thing they were saying is that by doing the exercise, we've developed more understanding, collective understanding, shared values, and common purpose. We're on the same page of what we value and what's important. And when we went back to work, number 3, we were collaborating better. We had built more trust. And it's the exercise is a transitional space. You offer a way to communicate that is different, that is constructive, and they can take back some of these learnings. And the other thing they were saying is how it was practically useful and accessible, easy, whatever the context, the level of training. It's just a very simple participative exercise. And the other thing I would add that impressed me in studying it is I would add another principle, and it's the holographic principle. If we did a strategic planning, for example, different regions or different offices of a same company, it was striking that the same ideas were coming out from the different regions. Yes, there were variabilities, but there was something that we were tapping into the culture of this organization, that whether you were in Montreal or Quebec City or Chicoutimi, you were basically valuing the core things you valued about this organization that you wanted. We're very much on the same page. So for organizations that are located in different locations, it's a very effective methodology as well to bring out this more collective recognition or sense of collective belonging. So I'm trying to present this. I hope it's as clear as possible. I wanted to have us experience it and to try this thing, because I think that's where, when you taste it, you discover a bit of the power of it. But I'll just stop here. And before we go on to this, maybe open up if there are any comments, reflections, questions. Be very happy to hear.
Linda had a question in the chat. Linda, I don't see you on screen, but if you want to unmute and ask your question. Oh, you can. There you go.
Yes, thank you. I'm fascinated by the work and how you're pulling it together with the two questions. When we in healthcare have done with our team some of things that have some elements of what you said, looking at, for example, trying to create primary health teams, we have found that there are many old hurts and wounds, and some people have difficulty getting back from those resentments, for example. Do you come across those things? And if so, how did you handle them and help them move over to your first question from your second question? Because I appreciate that you asked the second question, because we found if you don't acknowledge old hurts,
Yes.
they stay buried.
Yeah, your change is not going to be very effective. What has been striking for me is how powerful the appreciative lens is transformative. I remember one of the first times I've used this intervention was in a problem school, elementary school, that had the reputation for 10 years of being a toxic environment. The union representative was terrorizing everyone, and every new directorship that would come in the school would be in an ongoing fight with this woman who was the union rep. I came in with my exercise, and back then, I was so naive. I come in a very toxic environment, and they didn't want to hear about positive things. The union rep said, no, there's too many problems. We don't want positive things. So I negotiated an agreement to say, trust me, this will really help you out. And I don't know what, eventually they accepted, and we did it. What was amazing is the moment we started to talk about, and I did have the second question on what could we improve as a group. It was just what we like about the school and what would we want. If the school in a year from now would be like what the ideal school, what we want. Two questions. And at that moment, I had 4 groups of teachers separate. When I started the first group, or what they valued most about the group, it's as if I had opened the window and there was sunlight. The discreet one in the back who would never speak started to say, I like this. And the one said, I like this. And it's like that first meeting generated so positive energy that when I came to the second meeting, it started to talk. And as people know AI, know it happens, it was talking to the school. So my second teacher meeting was different, was becoming even more positive. And the third was becoming even more positive. And it was so aligned because it was allowing these positive voices to speak. And it was diluting the toxic dominance of this person. It was allowing the positive voices, the champions in the group, to be heard. And what happened? Well, at the end, they all valued the same thing, all wanted the same thing. I reflected back to them. They went on holidays. In my PhD, I went back to interview the director of the school. She said, François, the union rep went right away into sick leave, early retirement. She had no place anymore. She had lost her power because of all the positive that had grown. And she says, François, we become now a reference school because from the exercise, we developed a school, I'm trying to find the right translation, a school in health, that a healthy school project. We want to be a healthy school. And now schools come to see us as a reference. Now I know I'm not fully answering your question.
No.
Because but in that case, what impressed me was how I like to say the analogy of the cancer in the body. you can really focus on the cancerous cell or the ill system. But if you shoot the positive, shoot the life force in this, it's amazing how it really flips things around. But I'll let you speak. But yes, I think letting out is key. And I think the one thing that I've been surprised when I've been asking the second question, okay, what could we improve upon as a group? Often what comes up is we want more of what we value. It's when we miss what we value that we feel, I've worked a lot in healthcare, caring. When we lack the caring, when we lack the empathy, when we lack the connection, but it's those things that we value the most in our work.
Yeah.
Would you like to add more?
That does answer it, and I really like what you're saying about what they value. If they've lost that, then that leads to toxicity. And what I'm really hearing you say also, it's not a quick fix. You're doing multiple groups, so it's not like when somebody wants to contract for a one session and expects that to solve the whole issue. You went back.
You're Linda?
Yes, yeah.
Nowadays, I do it all in one shot.
Really?
So I don't want to say a quick fix, but it's that efficient. Because I say now, give me any group, and I can promise in half a day and 1 day, they don't come out the same way. They'll be transformed, and they'll be aligned, and they'll be engaged, and they'll be positive. I don't want to overtalk, but just another anecdote where a company called me just before Christmas. They said, it was IT. They said, we have a team in IT. If we don't do anything before Christmas, we're going to lose too many people. They won't come back in January. We can't lose these people. Can you do something with these guys so we don't lose them? We're like December 5th. I said, okay, we do a 2-day offsite, and the whole seminar is the structure of this thing. They come out of this 2-day thing, pumped up, inspired, remotivated, and all the irritants have been named. Nothing has been no caramel and sugar coating at all. And that was in December. So the unit, it was in Quebec City. The overall unit in Quebec City says, well, what this department did was pretty cool. How about doing a kind of a participative strategic planning for the whole unit in March? Sure. So in March, every department does the same exercise, and our team in December redoes the exercise.
Okay, so I don't want to monopolize.
They had become the cheerleaders. They had become the cheerleaders. They had leadership like no other group.
Was it a 2-day? Last question. Was it a 2-day group? Did you say my computer's connection with your speaking is a little choppy, so I'm having trouble hearing a bit.
Yes. It was done over 2 days.
2 days. Okay, great. Thank you.
But nowadays, I could have done it in 1 day. And I think, it's my weakness. I'm not a good merchant, or, I think I'm a very helping person. And if you ask me, François, can you do something for me in 1 day? I'm not consulted enough to say, no, I'll sell you a 3-month program, which I should be doing actually, and I'll be out of there in 1 day, which is not an intelligent consulting thing to do. But it's a very effective pedagogical thing. And for that, I take pride, and I see a lot of benefits.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are some other comments in the chat and questions, so feel free to raise your hands or unmute and bring your question to the group.
If not, we could do a little exercise. And
I think Ken, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask. I mean, all this is quite fascinating, François, and very impressive. But when you first presented it, I wonder, could there be a case where, let's say, a leader presents an idea that he would like to get feedback in the way you presented it, and the group ends up not accepting that idea, feeling that there are just too many problems to put it into. I mean, if I were presented a problem a plan that I didn't like, and I was asked to say, what do you appreciate about it? I'd feel a little bit like pressured. I mean, like, I really don't like this plan. I have to fish for some comments. But, and if I had the chance to do the reflections, as you said, would there be a chance if they were widely shared that that plan could be rejected?
Like Linda's question, I don't want to be over confident, but I'm always amazed. Well, one of the things, every group that I've led, I've been amazed of two things: the goodwill and the intelligence of people. People don't come in to mess it up. They want to do good. And I think fundamentally, they may be frustrated with what's happening and all that, but often it's a sign of their own engagement. So that as a taken, I haven't seen it, Ken. And I've been in really, I think, negative environments, but I find there's also a way, it's how you present it. I think, yes, there's a way of how you present it. And I think when I do the appreciative assessment, and when I think back of the 300 managers and the vice presidents who he wanted them to be more sales oriented. They weren't sales oriented enough. They were a bit too kind of comfortable in this organization. And so it was also an intention to kind of shake things up in that way. But they took the time to have people share their testimonies, and it maybe sound too oversimplistic, but it's as if there's always good, and if you frame it meaningfully, I think it's not just like a role play or just kind of putting on rose-colored glasses, but it's the power of appreciation. It really is, because and that's why I think the clients in the PG were saying, I'm so amazed with this appreciative thing, because
well, let me play a little bit with you. So they're slacked off. They're not really doing any work. And your plan as a leader, look, I'm going to double the requirement, and if you don't make it, you're fired. I mean, just total force. Now, to me, that's not a particularly good idea. And now I'm asked to evaluate that appreciatively. It's really hard to do that. And yes, I suspect that everyone in the group would probably have more reservations about it than positive things to say. Would there be a chance that proposal wouldn't pass?
Yeah, you're raising a good question. A good example in today's environment would be the whole return to work, for example. I see organizations where, you're 5 days back and that's it, period. And it's not making really people very happy in some organizations. Could the appreciative assessment be used in, what do you appreciate most of this kind of going back to work kind of thing? Strategy maybe would be an angle. Maybe it would still be an angle in the overall strategy. I'm not saying it's if there's a very open opposition. If you take, for example, an environment where it's very, very conflictual, I think. But again, it varies. When I look back at the school where I was at, because what strikes me in the systems is that there may be irritants, but there are constructive forces. And if you can manage to channel those constructive forces, you'll manage the irritants. But you don't want to get sunk in. And that's where the problem-solving approach, brings you down, is that you don't want to be sunk in just obsessed by the problem or the judgment. And when you channel out that, it generates so much. It generates awareness, emotion, and ideas and solutions. Is it a magic wand for every solution, every problem? No, but from all the various interventions I've seen, I'm amazed by the effectiveness and how pragmatic it is. Because when you come out of this, you've got an action plan. It's like, It's not just, unicorn, how we're so wonderful. So it's, but I think it's also, you raise it, I've never experienced that kind of environment or situation. I think you're raising a very important point.
Well, I pushed you pretty hard. I noticed Kristen Bonifant has a nice comment in there that in a case like that, maybe you do some pre-work. That is, you don't just come in with your idea as a leader and say, hey, this is it. What do you appreciate about it? You do some pre-work to see how this might go. Or how you.
Well said.
Yeah.
But what I'm most impressed is when I talk to people, the conventional OD. And what do people do? François, I have a problem with my team. Come in, do individual interviews, report, recommendation. When I compare that to what Appreciative Inquiry has generated, and what this offers, my God. And that's a whole, dialogical OD and the power of these constructive methodologies. And again, I've always been impressed by the goodwill and the intelligence of people. And we're so fearful of, what will people do and say. But I think that's where, and coming back to Follett, that's what we need. We need to create the machinery to get the social will created, to create these mechanisms, these constructive mechanisms that can help us come together. And I did this 3 years in a row with the medical faculty at the University of Laval in Quebec City here, and the dean and his vice deans. We did this as a year meeting. And at the end, when I went back to study with the PhD, so I said, how was it for you guys? Oh, it was great. And they said a bit kind of shy. They said, François, by the way, we've been doing it on our own, but we didn't call you back.
Hey, you have nicer people in Canada, François.
But it goes to show that if you just do it a bit, you're a manager yourself. You can. I was coaching someone online, and she was at a point where she came into this new position, and she had to put her vision and set her foot and she had a group of male experts in IT, and we talked about it, and then she decided to try this experiment, and it was beautiful. She said, guys, I came in the first quarter and it was my vision. I want to get into the second quarter with our vision. And she did this little exercise with her team. And what's interesting is what leaders say is that they gain legitimacy. The school director told me, François, I gained legitimacy by this exercise, even though, she was she allowed it to happen. But it's to show how leaders who give you the space to speak and to influence, well, you don't give more authority to these people. You want more of them. And so whereas leaders could have the fear of losing power by opening up, it's the opposite. If we don't have a question, I would propose we try something, if you're interested. And the idea would be this. If we go to this following slide, Alex, please. And by the way, there's the books where I describe the methodology, and there's the PhD that's on the Taos website that also gives you much more, maybe not as fun to read, but another source where you can get plenty of info on it, and never hesitate to contact me if you want. But we could try this out, and we could just break out a few minutes into small groups and taste it. And in fact, what I would propose is that we experience together the appreciative assessment. And this is a bit of a surprise to Alex and Ken, but I thought this could be a benefit for the Institute. We could reflect on the webinar. And the question would be, if Taos reflects on the webinar, what do we want to do with the webinar? What do we want to keep in the webinar? What do we want to change in the future to make sure people enjoy joining these webinars? We could start with the first appreciative assessment with the question, what do I appreciate most about Taos webinars, and which made me come to this event? I'm running on my phone, reading on my phone, so that's why I'm going close. The one thing which the organizing committee should make sure not to lose in organizing future webinar meetings. So if it's your first Taos webinar, maybe you could reflect on webinars in general. What is it that you value most of these experiences? You're spending time in front of your computer for an hour and a half. What makes it valuable to you? And if you're going to say to the organizing committee, make sure that aspect stays on your radar, so I keep coming to the webinar. And what we could do is we could break out into subgroups and answer this question, each one of us. What do I appreciate most of the webinar that I think should really be preserved? And each group identify, if you have your top 3 answers, the answers that are most shared by the group. And that's where we want to go with the exercise, both in the appreciative assessment and the wall of intentions. Where are the intersections? Where is our invisible leader, what we want as a group? So each subgroup brings back the 3 top answers, and the following step is your plenary. Each group comes with their 3 top answers, and then you make sense as a larger group of the items that are the most identified. And it's a very I think of all the exercise, it's that moment is the soft spot. That's where really I think a lot of meaning, emotion, clarity, and priorities emerge the most. And if you want, we could just do this for, let's say, 12 minutes.
Okay.
Because we want to have time to wrap up at the end. So a 12-minute into subgroups, answering that question and coming back with your top 3 answers. Does that make sense?
Okay, and some people need to leave at the top of the hour. That's okay. We will have groups of 5 or 6 people, and I'm opening the groups right now.
Excellent. The thing is, we can talk about this, but it's experiencing it that really, I think, gives so much more. So an opportunity to taste it. Maybe a brief introduction of each one of you. Hello, and sharing what you appreciate most of the Taos webinar or webinars in general that should be preserved, and then we could come back together. When you do this exercise with your subgroups, you'll realize that the volume and the energy goes up. It is really impressive. The energy, the kind of questioning it generates. So yes, again, the language is key. The formulation of the question is key. I often say a question is a ship. It will lead you somewhere, and so.
Those of you who are still here, let me know if you have any trouble getting into the breakout room. If you can't go, you can put something in the chat or you can unmute and I can help you.
Super. Enjoy the encounter.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to get into a breakout group.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm gonna try it. You should see something coming on your screen inviting you to join a room.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone else have trouble? No? Maybe others are.
Thank you, Alex.
You're very welcome. There are several comments and questions in the chat, François, that you may want to address when the group comes back. Give you a moment to take a look at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll
Absolutely.
be back in just a minute. I'll just step out.
All right.
François, thank you so much. I didn't join a subgroup. This is my first Taos webinar, so I thought actually I'd love to stay here and maybe ask the question I asked in the chat, which is, I've worked with, I'm Shamsa Ibrahim, by the way. I'm based in Northern California, and I'm a consultant as well. And I've worked with groups that, you know, when they invite us in, often have a real hardship and broken trust between staff and leadership. And when that's the case, we found it very important to give folks the experience of being heard, to express all of the hurt, before they can be ready to come in with an appreciative attitude. And I wonder what you feel about that, especially if in the workplace there has been kind of enforcing toxic positivity, like
Yes.
you know, yeah. Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. No, and I think you're coming back. It's in a way, I find it unfortunate that you're raising this while the others can't hear, because I think it's a great follow-up to the previous question. And I think you're right. I think you're totally right. And I would never want to be in a situation of in a toxic positivity. Exactly. What I have realized, nonetheless, and I'm not saying it's always the case, but I've intervened in 2 crisis situations. And in both situations, it's as if it turned around by letting the positive come up. And I hear what you're saying. I totally agree. So I think it's maybe the comment earlier would be to say that maybe there needs some preparatory work to get to the exercise, if it's so intense.
Can I offer an
But
idea?
when I do realize, just Sheila, hi.
Yeah, no, I've had that experience, and what I've done is invite everyone to let me know what the problems are, what are their frustrations, and I write it, you know, visibly on a whiteboard or a flip chart. And once everything is out there, then I ask permission. I say, okay, can we try something here together? And at the end of our time, we will come back to this. And everybody agrees, because they feel like, okay, she's taken note of everything that we are not, you know, happy about, and she's going to leave time. And then we go through the appreciative process, and I say, okay, now what about this? And every time they say, oh, you know, we don't need to talk about that. So it's really, you know, letting people know that they've been heard, they've been taken seriously.
Yes.
We will devote time to it. But then introducing this different process, and all of a sudden it just dissolves in thin air.
Yes.
So Sheila, I'm really curious. What I loved about François' share was that he goes in and immediately the energy rises. And so when you are coming in and first talking about airing the problems, does the energy are you noticing kind of a sucking of the air out of the room before you introduce appreciative inquiry?
Well, it's the reverse. I come in introducing appreciative inquiry, and someone will say, we can't do that until we discuss X, Y, and Z. And it's then that I give over. So I try to start with the appreciative, but if you get pushback, then okay, let's make a list here. And then, so the process works really well that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you very much. we'll bring this back when we come back as a group. That's a really nice reflection.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thanks for bringing it. I think it's a very important one. It's worth talking more.
Yeah, because sometimes people, they just feel that toxic positivity, like, oh, we just have to be happy, happy, happy all the time. And that doesn't feel genuine. And so acknowledging, I think appreciative inquiry doesn't mean being positive all the time. Appreciative inquiry means, expanding the value of what you value.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I have this horrendous cold.
Well, thanks for being there nonetheless.
Yeah.
So if I ask you the question then, you have experience with the Taos webinars, Sheila. If there's one thing you appreciate most of these webinars, could you identify something?
Well, I don't think we could talk about that until we talk about the problem with the webinars, right?
Let me take out the flip chart. We'll write this on the wall.
Right. I think I appreciate two things. One is seeing people come together and their curiosity to be together and share ideas and so forth. And the other is tapping into whoever is kind of presenting their work, tapping into their ideas, and kind of expanding our own resources for working.
And I forgot the name. Now I only see Sheila. There was another the lady that is with us presently.
Shamsa?
Are you still there?
She's still here.
I'm here.
Because you say it's your first Taos webinar, but you've experienced other webinars before, I presume?
Yes.
If there's one thing you appreciate most of a good webinar, is there one thing?
Sure. It's what you did, to be honest. It's presenting what you know in its entirety without saying, and if this is really interesting, you should go buy my book. This other piece I would talk about, but we have no time, go buy this other thing. Just a full scope. This is what I know. This is what I'm offering, and doing it with humility. That is something I really, really appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
And then we'll go buy your book.
And as I say to everyone, oh, hello, Ken, you're back.
He's been here all along.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh. Well, just to come back to you on the idea of the book, as I always say, you don't have to read it. You don't have to tell me it's good, but any feedback is more than welcome. So do not hesitate. I'll be very happy. Ken, if I may ask you, before we get people back in, of the webinars, if there's one thing you appreciate most of the webinars, that should be preserved in the future.
You're asking me that? Yep. It's the second part of the question I hang up on. I mean, for me personally, this is what we should be doing with Taos. That is, having sharing from different parts of the world of something that may be meaningful for other people. This is, to me, the critical in terms of the sort of raison d'etre of having Taos. And it's the preservation is really that's the point of it all, to preserve that potential of a global sharing of ideas that have to do that are kind of within the value spectrum of what constructionist work does: collaboration, mutuality, moving towards some greater good within the circle of us all. So, yeah.
François, we're at time. Do you want me to close the room and we'll have 1 minute before people come back?
Wonderful, Alex. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Well, Ken, you resonate very much with Sheila's ideas as well, of the sharing and the connecting of the people.
Kelsey,
Thank you.
please.
Excuse me?
I said, what a surprise.
Yeah, coherence is a good thing. How many years have you known each other? Sheila and you.
35, 40 years,
Wow.
maybe.
I think more than that.
Yeah, maybe 40 years.
Yeah, something
40
like
years.
that.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And Sanjeev shared in the chat that he agrees with Dr. Sheila McNamee that I too like coming together with like-minded people, sharing the ideas and learning from each other. By the way, this is my first Taos webinar. Well, welcome. Thank you for sharing.
Wow.
Yeah, I think everyone is back.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Before we do dive into the return to from our exercise, I just want to follow up on something that Ken had raised earlier, and I think connected with other people's concerns was when he asked me, if you meet a group that is really resistant and there's strong reactions to anything, or if there's a very toxic environment or strong resistance, if you come in with the appreciative angle, is it, do you meet resistance, and what do you do in that instance? I think it's a great question. And actually, during the break, we were sharing with Sheila and another participant, and Sheila had a wonderful suggestion, as she does when she intervenes with the Appreciative Inquiry, is that if there are really people express some very powerful irritants or frustrations, the importance of hearing them out. You said of the idea of putting them on the flip chart, hearing them out, allowing that to be expressed so that we can then move on in a more appreciative angle. And what she said is that most of the time when she ends the exercise, she goes back to the flip chart and the items are no longer such an issue as they were at the beginning, but they had been heard. And I think that's also the important message we can take back from this discussion. And speaking of hearing, when I bring people back, the first thing I like to ask is, how did you find the experience? Did you find the experience positive? And maybe before we get into the content, if some people would be happy to share, how did you find this sharing, this answering the question in your subgroup? Help us understand how it was for you. Would anyone have any reaction to share?
Our group was very interesting to talk to because we found people from different nationalities doing different types of work. Like, for example, we have a person from Sweden, and she was talking about, she works with O level, and how in this environment where she teaches, the headmaster leaves most of the time because of the problems with the people and the way the people react to the situation. Somehow that's what I understood. I talk about myself as I work in Venezuela at the Pedagogic Institute and with environmental education. And then I'm trying to write a book on environment in open spaces. So that for me, this topic that you develop is very important because it is supposed to have, if we are having quality in environmental education, that should be one of the main aspects to tackle, no? It's not only to go and see the plants and the environment, but how do you deal with the group with whom you work? These sort of things, no? And then there was this gentleman from India that he works with sports and different groups of people doing sport. This is what I understood. I don't know if they are there, that maybe they could just explain more because for us we were all new, no, we didn't know each other, and I think that's one of the main aspects in groups. You need to know the people, no? So we were just nearly starting to meet. So they are there.
So did you have a chance to answer the question on the webinar, or it was an opportunity to get to know each other more?
I think we needed to know exactly why we are here, no? What is our interest and what we do in order to
Okay,
tackle the question. But then the time was so short that we didn't get to.
that's it.
We were
Good
just
point. Good
starting.
point. Good point. Well, you're highlighting one aspect that was shared in the subgroup where Ken and Sheila were what they valued most was this sharing and interconnecting of people that the webinars offered within the Taos community. And in fact, you just kind of exemplified it because that's what was most important. So yes, very short, obviously as an exercise, but it reminds us again in the methodology of when we do it, of how the subgroup work, the facilitation becomes important. When I do it with large groups, for example, 300 people, when we did it then, we had 25 tables, and we had asked for volunteers from the participants as facilitators, so that at each table, we had one participant who had been 30 minutes before the event, instructed with a little kind of guide to lead the facilitation with the questions, the process of asking everyone and all that, so that because the time is short and as you're saying, people don't know each other, someone there can be there as a responsible to facilitate the actual exercise. But thank you for your sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to you for the opportunity.
Good. Any other group? Sharing from any other group? How it was for you?
So maybe I will share with for our group. I was with Mark and Hélène. They are both from UK. Mark noticed something very important. He said that all of our exchange are made in English, which is a blessing for the English speaker. And also it helps people like me, I'm French, to have the opportunity to speak different language. But I think it's important to see what we have in common. To highlight that. And also what we said is what we like in webinar is the possibility to meet like-minded people who share the same value. And it's very important. So this is my first Taos webinar. So, and also what we said, that what is very important is the interaction, the possibility to share what we are doing. And also, we also said that what is important is to leave the webinar with something that you have learned and something that you can apply, something that is seem accessible for you. This is what so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Magali. And if you can just imagine, and we won't be using the whiteboard for time reasons, but you can just imagine if we had a whiteboard right now and Magali's items, we would have put on the flip chart. The whole sharing, connecting with different people of shared values. And when I hear back of what Ken and Sheila were also saying again about connecting between us as a community and sharing and learning from each other, other groups would follow. And some of these items we would see asterisks, and probably the connecting and sharing would come out more and more and more and more. And it would highlight again, as I was saying, some key values key values of the webinar, things that we value as important in our webinar that could easily lead to a second question, which would be our wall of intention. So let's say we've identified those key shared elements to say, all right, if we imagine our next webinar, if there's one thing I would like us to focus on or prioritize to do, what would that be? And all this meaning we will have created from the appreciative assessment will guide us into the next steps. I was saying how this first part, I like to do it to subgroups, mixed subgroups, obviously, and to get to the in the plenary, bring the items back. The wall of intentions, and when it's possible, I like to let every individual, one by one, go to the wall. Magali goes to the wall, speaks to the rest of us. We listen to Magali. She has the opportunity to speak to the whole group. And then Susan, Sheila, Ken, everybody individually will come. And I think it's very powerful to let the group hear every single person. Yet we're still on the wall constructing our clusters of intentions that we want. Alex, I see you. Is there any other question or?
Several people have posted their responses in the chat. Would anyone would like to unmute and speak out loud to the group?
Yeah, I'm Sankara from India. I'm first time attending it. As a sports and community psychologist, I really appreciate, and it's a presentation par excellence, Héon. I really liked it. And sharing and caring gives us a scope for not only to exchange, use, acquire knowledge. It creates cooperation and coordination, collaboration among people, and exchange their views freely and frankly. And this is a group leadership means that they'll have more cohesion, they'll be more pragmatic, they'll be more grounded. I really liked it. Thank you.
Yes,
as a sports and
totally.
Community psychologist from India. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much for your sharing. So true. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Christina from UK, and thank you for this workshop. I remember Ken and Sheila having been to UK to do workshops. It's been a long time ago. Hi. I appreciate this the opportunity to do for the exercises is because I've now retired from my consultant systemic family therapy post, and I'm doing charity work with Kenya in Africa, and I appreciate the fact that some of this work that I've learned from the Taos Institute, especially appreciative inquiry, because a lot of the people felt they don't have the power, they don't have the capacity, and they behave quite needily and constantly asking for help. And in my last visit, which was last November, because of the lockdown, we couldn't go. And so they were left on their own for a little while. And they came, when we went this time, they felt that they were needy and they wanted more and more help from us. And conducting an appreciative inquiry, it's helped them, and this is their feedback, was that we've helped them realize for the first time their capacity and their strength as individuals and as a group to carry on doing what's there's a phone call. Doing what they need to do, or continue to do what they need to do. So I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
And one of the feedbacks we received is that people do feel empowered from the exercise. The dean of the medical faculty was telling me, he says, François, this methodology makes the participants leaders as they are involved. And to get back to the needy aspect, the questioning in this is very oriented to I have a French word, responsabiliser, to responsibilize, to take ownership. So it's what I appreciate. What could we improve as a group? Not what the organization should improve. What do I want us to do? So the questioning also is one of engaging. It's not about asking. And I think from there, as you're saying, creates that experience of empowerment. Thank you very much, Christina. I see the minutes going by, and I'd like to let the last few minutes. I don't know if Alex, you want to say something. I would go on. This is very interesting, and I know the one disappointment I have is that I would like to hear so much more of all of you, because there's so much richness in this, and unfortunately, I can't.
François, would like to invite you to give a presentation to our government. We need your help.
Yes.
We are a democratic government without democracy.
But I think, Ken, and to end on this note, on this editorial note, I think we are in an age, and it wasn't like that when I started to study. There are forces, anti-democratic forces, that are very strong. And the democratic forces have to stand tall and keep fighting, because otherwise there will always be people to say that anyway, they can't do it on their own. They need somebody to control them. And they'll create all the mechanisms to make that happen. And how can we create ways to educate, empower collectivities to to develop their own capacity for self-determination.
It's really been fascinating.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ken, and the whole Institute, for what you've been in my life and this opportunity. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate your participation, and thank you, François, for such a great event, for engaging everyone, such conversation. And the recording will be available, so feel free to share it, and feel free to continue to comment in the Taos Institute Commons. The online community is there so that we can continue this dialogue and keep the energy going. So our next event is on May 11th. We will host a dialogue with the author about the book Transforming Traumas Through Social Change. So we hope to see you there. And again, thank you for coming, and we hope you have a good rest of your day or evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, François.